how CSS rules cascade. Remember, I told you CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. Now, if there are two or more rules that apply to the same element, it is important to understand which one will take precedence over the other. Definitely, you cannot be working with two commands for the same element at the same time. So in this case, the last rule will take precedence over the previous rule. If two selectors are identical, the latter of the two will take precedence. Here you can see a second. I will explain those all the rules and how it works, how it applies. Okay. Another thing you must also know under CSS is to what? To be specific. Okay, to be specific. If one selector is more specific than the other, it is going to work on the more specific one. That one will take precedence over the general ones. Now look at the examples stated here. H1 as we see it here is more specific than the asterisk. I told you the asterisk is what? It's a universal selector. This applies to almost every element, but this is more specific. So if the rule applies the same to both of them, it will take what? This will take precedence over that. Now a PB is more specific than a P. P just talks about almost every paragraph, but this is talking about a B that is found in a particular P. So this PB is more specific than a general P. Now this is also what? An ID. Okay, an ID. So PH intro is more specific than a P, just like in the case here. This is more specific than this, but this one is going directly to a particular paragraph and select a particular ID element and apply to it. Now importance also, you can decide to give some of your properties importance over the other. Okay, in this case, those ones that you have indicated as important are going to take precedence over those that are what? Less important. Now inheritance, you remember we were doing child, sibling, adjacent sibling, universal sibling, and what have you. In CSS there are relationships. Okay, if you specify the font family or color properties of the body, the entire body element, they will apply to most child elements because the entire body contains all the visual area of the page. This includes the element and each child element. It saves you from having to apply these properties to as many elements as possible. So we always encourage people to write less CSS codes or CSS rules. Write rules that apply to most, okay, to most of the elements you have, so as to reduce the number of CSS rules you will have to write for a particular website. Okay, if you want to write every rule for each of the elements, it is going to be a lot of work. So you can compare this with the background color or border properties. They are not inherited. Okay, because background color or background properties are specific to specific elements. You cannot generalize it. If this were inherited by all child elements, then the page could look messy. You can apply the same rule to the entire body and apply the background color also. That is going to apply to almost every child element. It's not going to look nice at all. Okay, but in some instances you are also forced to allow a lot of your properties to inherit values from their parent, just like I explained, by using the values. Okay, I'm going to show you some example that applies to most of them, and then we are going to try to make some sense out of that. Now div, we all did div when we're treating HTML. Div element with a class called page. inherit the padding size from the CSS rule that applies to the body. We are still talking about the inheritance. When we use a div element and give it a class, okay, let's say we name the name of the class is page. It can be any name. This is going to inherit the padding. That means the space between the borders, okay, that applies to the entire body.